5 News at Noon starts now.
Well, right now at noon, millions of Americans could lose SNAP benefits if Congress fails to pass a spending bill, leaving many at the risk of going hungry. Plus, President Trump is in Tokyo ahead of a high-stakes meeting with China's leader on trade, tariffs, and TikTok. Thank you so much for joining us here for your 5 News at Noon. I'm Tiffany Lee with Joshua Weisel. And Joshua, it's finally starting to feel like fall out there, but I think the big question is, when are we going to see some sunshine?
Yeah, and the good news is today's a little bit of a break, but we have another round of some showers and thunderstorms to get through tomorrow, Wednesday, and some gusty winds, unfortunately. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at what's going on out there across the region. And you can see this afternoon, it's going to be a pretty good day across the region. So we're expecting those highs right around the 60s. We're talking lower to probably mid 60s, depending on where you're watching from. For the remainder of the day, it's also going to be cloudy because we're going to be expecting these clouds to stick around throughout most of the day. There will be a couple breaks here and there, so it may not be, 100% cloudy all day. It'll be a little bit warmer at times. But other than that, we're going to be just kind of chilling with these clouds and these temperatures, and they're really not going to go anywhere anytime soon. 59 right now in Fayetteville. Lots of clouds, as you can see. 63 degrees as well in Fort Smith. It's also pretty humid out there. So we're going to keep these clouds around and these temperatures. If you've been watching from this morning, there really isn't a big difference in those temperatures so far. Maybe a little bit more of an increase in the temperatures by the time we get to this afternoon for some areas, but we're pretty close to those highs for today based off of the forecast with the latest temperatures that are across the region. The hourly forecast, like I said, there may be a couple breaks in the clouds here and there, but it's going to be basically overcast for the majority of the day. Those highs are only going to top off in the lower 60s for a large portion of the area and into the upper 60s for some parts of the River Valley. Otherwise, just a cloudy, gloomy day. Now, as we start headed closer into the next couple of days, we're also going to be talking about some winds that are going to be increasing with our next system. We're also going to be talking about some chilly temperatures post-system. I'll have all the details on that coming up in just a little bit.
All right, thanks for that, Joshua. We are now in day 27 of the federal government shutdown. The funding stalemate is now the second longest in United States history. Democratic holdouts are demanding Republicans sit down with them to discuss health care reforms. But Republicans say that they won't do that until the government reopens. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries was on Face the Nation and said that he's ready to negotiate with Republicans.
Our view as Democrats is that we want to sit down with anyone, anytime, any place, either at the Capitol or back at the White House, to reopen the government, to enact a bipartisan spending agreement that actually meets the needs of the American people, while at the same time decisively addressing the Republican health care crisis that is crushing the American people.
Well, Friday marked the first time many federal employees missed a paycheck due to the shutdown. Well, in just under a week, nearly 42 million Americans who get federal food assistance could see their benefits disappear as a result of the ongoing government shutdown. Nearly 8% of Arkansans receive support from the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which is known as SNAP. If a spending bill is not passed in the House and Senate by November 1st, funding for SNAP programs will run out. Hattie Hamilton with the River Valley Regional Food Bank says that while they are preparing for an increased demand of food assistance, many people still suffer from food insecurity.
I think some of the biggest impact is going to be fear. Fear on where your next meal is going to be at. How are you going to survive? How are you going to get through the day?
Well, in Washington, the blame game continues as Republicans and Democrats point fingers at each other as to why the shutdown is continuing. Well, we are working to learn more today about a deadly crash in Johnson County. Arkansas State Police say 2 people have died in that crash, which involved a cattle truck. It happened Saturday night on westbound Interstate 40 in Johnson County at Highway 359. Traffic was impacted for several hours, but appears back to normal. We'll, of course, keep you updated as we learn more. Arkansas Game and Fish continue their search for the bear that's linked to the death of a 6-year-old camper from Missouri. DNA taken from the victim and from a bear spot in the area and euthanized did not match. The attack happened on October 2nd at Sam's Throne Campground in the Ozark National Forest. It's the second bear attack this year. Officials tell us the DNA results are disappointing, but they'll keep investigating and searching for the bear.
So from here, we're going to continue to keep our cameras at the campground. We've also got our traps set up there We just rebaited them again last week. Hopefully we can get something, you know, on camera or in the traps. We haven't. That's the only bear that has come back to the campground, which is really odd, and that's really the reason why we thought that was probably the bear.
Well, if you do see a bear that is acting aggressively, you're advised to contact Game and Fish. Well, veterinarians are offering advice for keeping your pet safe this Halloween. They're encouraging people to keep their dogs and cats in a quiet room on Halloween night. This way, they won't dart outside when you open the door for trick-or-treaters. It's also important to remember that many of our Halloween treats can be toxic to our four-legged friends, so keep them up and away from your pets.
Ingesting chocolate is a medical emergency. So no matter how much they've had, if your dog is small and they've eaten you don't know how much, or if your dog is big and you kind of know how much, go ahead and get them to the emergency clinic. It's just not worth it to lose your pet because you weren't sure, and you'd much rather have them at home and keep them than have something tragic happen.
Well, now to the breaking news on Hurricane Melissa, which is barreling towards Jamaica. The terrifying storm was upgraded to a Category 5 this morning, with winds up to 160 miles an hour. Jason Allen is in Jamaica's capital, Kingston, where people are preparing for the worst.
Jamaica is bracing for impact. Preparations have been underway for days, boarding up buildings and businesses. Crews spent the last few rain-free hours Sunday trying to clean drainage gullies that have been filling with debris for years as Hurricane Melissa slowly moves toward Jamaica, expected to make landfall as a Category 5 storm tomorrow morning. Already, flooding rainfall has pooled on streets here in Kingston.
The heaviest rains haven't hit yet, but there's water in the streets. This is one of the drains that's supposed to carry water from the mountains to the larger gullies, but it's already backed up.
During breaks in the rain, some race to reinforce and patch leaks on their rooftops.
What is your biggest concern? Is it your house leaking? Is it running out of food and supplies?
Everything, basically everything.
The Jamaican government has opened hundreds of shelters like this one across the city as forecasters warn of devastating winds and flooding. In Portmore, about 20 minutes southwest of Jamaica's capital, waves were building Sunday in the fishing villages along the shoreline, with water rising and flooding roadside stands. And fishermen's boats were already pulled out of the water and parked across the road. Still, some people we talked to said they had no plans to leave.
Weather forecasters are saying there hasn't been a storm like this before.
Yes, that is so true, but we just have to prepare for ourselves for anything that's necessary.
The wind we're experiencing this morning is already starting to lift some of the metal roofing material we can see on the houses in this area. And as the wind continues to blow, the storm surge and the waves here are expected to push to 9 to 13 feet, especially in the unprotected areas along the coastline in the overnight hours. Jason Allen, CBS News in Kingston, Jamaica.
Well, President Trump has arrived in Tokyo as part of a 5-day trip through Asia. Still to come is a highly anticipated meeting with the Chinese president, where the two will be talking trade, tariffs, and TikTok. The president's 3-country trip to Asia began over the weekend in Malaysia, where he signed trade agreements with Malaysia, Thailand, and Cambodia, along with a peace treaty. The big trade meeting comes later this week when President Trump will sit down with China's president at an economic summit in South Korea. The administration says the U.S. and China have reached a framework trade deal focusing on fentanyl, agriculture, rare earth minerals, and the sale of TikTok.
I expect we'll have an approval, but I'd rather wait till a couple of days to let you know.
Well, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says that the president's threat of an additional 100% tariff is effectively off the table and signaled China will resume substantial soybean purchases from American farmers.